pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pursuant to the provisions of Section 2.68.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, notice is hereby given that if you are not satisfied with the decision made by the Metropolitan Transportation Licensing Commission, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Metropolitan Transportation Licensing Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. I believe last month's minutes were circulated with today's agenda to the Commission. Is there a motion regarding approving those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. First item on our agenda is a new wrecker company application for J-Pin Auto Repair and Towing. Mr. Fields notified me that the new driver permit from David Ashbury is being taken off today's agenda. Mr. Fields.
J-Pin Auto Repair and Towing Services applied. They are a new company and require your approval. Their application is ordered. We provide you the insurance as well as their application.
Has the Commission had an opportunity to review the new record company application for J-Pin? Is there a representative for J-Pin Auto Repair here today? Sir, if you could come forward. If you give us just a moment. Mr. Fields, is everything in order with his application?
Yes, sir. Everything's in order, and we recommend approval.
Is there a
I make a motion
regarding the application?
I make a motion to approve the application.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Application granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda, we have a new driver permit for a Metro livery driver permit for Arsh Khalil. Thank you. If you can come forward. Mr. Fields.
I had originally sent it on the agenda as a taxi cab driver. It is a other vehicle for hire driver. It is for to be a driver at Metro Livery. In his original application, Mr. Khalil had failed to list a criminal contempt charge that was filed in 2012. Other than that, and that would not preclude him from being a driver. The reason he would be in front of you is because he failed to list it. Other than that, there would be nothing that would keep him from being a driver.
I make a motion to accept the application.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Can I say something?
Sure.
You know,
You may.
Mr. Khalil, I would warn you, they've already approved it, but go
oh,
ahead.
approve? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, for that.
I just try explain, why I forget, to write everything in application. That's it, This is only I want to say,
We approved it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize for interrupting the meeting.
That's all right. Next item on our agenda is a Magic Taxi and 10 cab vehicle color agreement for the commission to review.
When the commission approved the colors for the new colors for Magic Taxi, we asked that they move from, originally they asked for green and gold, red and gold. Then they came back and asked for a cream color or an off-white. There became an issue between, because the colors for 10 cab is a cream color, actually this color, we wanted to, there were some issues between the companies. We met with the companies, we met with their representatives, we had conversations, they worked out an agreement, and we included that would actually, and it's in your packet, where they've signed letters of agreement, each have signed, and they would like to have the commission formally accept an agreement that this would be 10 Cab's colors and this would be Magic Taxi's colors. And we would keep them on file at the office and be available. I was very pleased with the level of cooperation and the understanding that they had. It could have been one of those where it would not have been pleasant. They actually made it work out very well, and I'd recommend that you accept.
Is there a motion regarding accepting the settlement agreement? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item on our agenda, Volunteer Taxi has requested to make an alteration to their logo. And I believe that is also in our packets from Mr. Fields.
We would have sent you a photograph of their orange taxi, and I think volunteers here with the copy. What they basically want to do is go from, show what we've got today.
Yeah, just take it off right. The DVD say it look like checkers. So instead of with that, just wait for a volunteer taxi no, we take it out that one.
Are you taking this script and you're putting block letters
No,
on?
we don't do it anymore.
So you're not going to have,
No.
It'll just be orange here?
Yes,
Yeah.
just orange and then volunteer taxi. That's the only exactly how we look like. The reason why we put it first, we put volunteer taxi. People they're asking, they don't see exactly, say, some Vanderbilt, some say Virginia, some say different names. So some, when it's tried, it was say some people even to ask checker. So we take it up and just we put a name.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Make a motion to approve the new style, new logo.
All those in favor? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is a request for an extension of deadline for the deployment of new taxi cabs. Mr. Fields?
You'll recall in the January meeting, the commission approved an additional 370 taxi cabs in Nashville. It took our total 1125. We knew it would be challenging. The commission asked the industry, the companies that receive new permits, to have half on April the 1st, the other half on June the 1st. Well, I think good faith effort has been made, and I think there may, and some may meet the deadline, especially the new companies may meet the April 1st deadline. Today they have not, but there's still another week to go to get additional cars permitted. What we've seen is an exodus from existing companies to the new companies, and then other companies within that received additional permits. So what we have are companies still looking for cars and still looking for drivers. Because from a staff standpoint, we also recognize the need to reach out to find additional drivers. We worked with the State Department of Labor as well as the National Career Advancement Center to hold a driver fair. We did not have great attendance. We had a few drivers that appeared. We intend to continue to do that, looking for additional drivers. We also have issues, and we don't have the issue today, but we have the issue of capacity in the training class as well. So it would be a great, again, you could certainly leave the deadlines where they are, and then we'll deal with it as it comes. But if the goal is to get additional taxi cabs on, then I think we need to extend the deadline.
You recommend any dates?
Well, I've really struggled with that. I've had recommended to me everything from a 3-month extension to a 2-year extension. So I mean, there's wild swing between the two. I think, again, based on what I've seen, I think the best we could hope for with perfect situation might be the fall, but I think the first of the year is probably more reasonable based on what people have told me. Now, again, that is not universally agreed upon by people in the industry, I suspect, and some are here. You may want to hear from them. It's not a public hearing. You don't have to hear from them, but if you'd like to hear from at least 2 or 3 of the operators are here and could speak to that.
I think it's a good idea that if we are going to extend the deadline, that we continue to stagger the dates to ensure that, you know, there is compliance and that there's not going to be another request upon the new deadline without being able to see some evidence that the companies are getting additional cabs, or at least are in the process. Does the commission want to hear from any of the companies who may be here today to talk on this issue, or do you just want to deliberate?
I think I would like to just deliberate first, and if we're not in agreement on what we think we need to do, then we might want to hear from some folks. I think it's pretty clear cut what the problem is, and I agree with you, Sal, that we probably at the very least need to put a shorter time frame on it to see what kind of progress we're getting, because you can always extend it if you have to. But if you just leave it open-ended, then it's going to be way too long a process to try to manage. So to me, it doesn't matter whether we just say, okay, everybody gets another 4 months, and then we look where we are, or if we talk about staggering it and say X amount has to be on by 3 months and X amount has to be on by 6 months and 9 months in that realm. Either way, we just need to have some kind of gauge for how it's moving forward.
Does the code have if they're issued by X date, within the code, is there a time that they need to be?
The code does not specify. It's implied by the code and the rule that unless the commission chooses a specific date, it's implied that would occur immediately or shortly thereafter. But the commission does have the authority to set a date that's been supported by a rationale on why you've chosen that date.
Well, we're sitting at a perfect preface of 3-month intervals towards the end of the year, right?
Right.
So you've got April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December to give 3 time frames to say, 30, 60, 90, however we want to discuss.
Well, and based on Mr. Fields, it sounds like, the hope is that there's going to be at least an extension until the fall. So perhaps we should be considering like a September 1, December 1 type deadline.
That's fine, too.
Does anyone else have any other thoughts?
I just think that right now they're going through some changes, and they're pretty drastic right now because it's in the beginning. A lot of companies a lot of drivers are moving from one company to another right now. So I believe that we need to give them more time right now to kind of get settled in.
How are the new companies coming along with their permits or filling out theirs?
What's basically happened, so many of the new companies and even the new old companies, some that you put on last year and some that you put on this year, have actually taken cars and drivers from the larger existing companies. I think for the most part, I think the new companies are going to be much more capable of hitting deadlines, again, because the structure of those companies, that's what it was designed for, to have drivers who have vested interest, drivers owners who have vested interest in those companies, whereas the larger companies are not designed the same way. So I think the newer companies will probably very likely hit, for the most part, their deadlines. I think the older companies, for instance, in the letter that The letter that you received from Tax USA indicated that they would be bringing in additional hybrid vehicles, as many as 26 to begin filling their, and they're actually being painted in decal now, is my understanding. So there'll be a good push forward, but where they are, they're going to be backfilling what they've lost to the other companies, plus the additional cabs that were granted in January. So it's with the cost of vehicles as well as the logistics of not only that, but training drivers in our drivers program. We're now we can train about 25 at a time in a 3-day class, but we don't have unlimited resources to do that class over and over and over. So we're also going to have a difficult time. We would not have been able to meet the deadline, and I thought we had a backlog of drivers enough that would fill it, and we do not. So I say all that to say we just need the time. And again, I'm hoping you can set a deadline that they'll all meet and we don't have to revisit it. Because again, if we agreed that we needed permits and additional cabs, then what we need to do is do our very best to get them on the street.
Would anyone like to make a motion regarding?
I'd like to give them until the beginning of the year or the end of the year to get all the cabs on. You're not for that? Okay.
I would make a motion that by September 1st, 30% of what we've allotted need to be online. That's 6 months. For 30% of the total amount need to be. And then if it's not, then we have to decide at that point in time whether we're going to cut back the number we're talking about or whether we're going to give an extension. But I think we need to see that kind of progress across the board, because for some people that's 4 or 5 cabs. It's not a ton of cabs. So it's not, and I haven't made a motion yet, so I apologize if I started in that direction. For me, it's not so much about, we have to look at did we overextend the numbers? If the marketplace won't fill it, you just can't let it go into perpetuity. At some point in time, you got to go, we gave you the opportunity. If you can't fill it, you can't fill it. We just got to move on to the next thing. It's not fair to, you might find a company that filled 100% of them and somebody else that filled none of them. So then you're penalizing that company that did the due diligence and got the cab drivers there for that company that didn't do it.
Yeah, they got those cab drivers
Right.
from the other company though, and now the other company's at a negative.
It's immaterial. You're either going to have enough drivers or you're not. You can switch them around forever. If you don't have enough drivers, you don't have enough drivers.
So you're saying September 1 or October 1 and then revisit it then?
I'd say that they need to have 30% filled by September 1.
30% of the new
30%
allocation.
of the new allocation needs to be filled by September 1st. That's 6 months. Because otherwise, we're going to say 100% by December, and that's, if you don't see any progress in 6 months, you got to revisit it.
I think that's reasonable, 30%.
Okay, make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we extend the deadline, to our September meeting, and I don't have the date on that, to have 30% of the new cabs allocated filled by that time.
I second that motion.
Now we can clarify.
Well, I do have a question, but we already have a second on the motion. Is it proper for me to seek clarification on the motion?
Mm-hmm.
If the motion has been seconded, then yes, you can have discussion and ask
Okay.
questions.
There was no addressing of when the remaining 70% would need to be filled as part of your motion. It was just by September. But by the date of our meeting in September, about 30% would need to be filled. What about the remaining 70%?
I didn't make that in the motion, so we'd either have to
Have a separate motion
have
on
a
that?
separate motion.
Or a friendly amendment, if you'd accept one. If there is an amendment.
Well, let's deal with the first deadline then.
It's September 18th, by the way.
September 18th. All those in favor of extending the deadline to September 18th to have at least 30% of the new taxi cab permits allocation to be filled. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. So there's a new deadline now of September 18th for the taxi cab companies to have 30% of the new allocation filled. Now we need to discuss when the remaining 70% needs to be filled.
All right, my question would be, do we want to use that as a gauge for whether we've allocated the right number or not, or do we just want to, create, for lack of a better term, punitive damages for not having it filled?
Well, eventually it's punitive, because if they don't have 90% by the time we set, then they're gone.
Okay.
But I think for customer service, you have an incredibly busy time in the summer, and you have New Year's Eve.
Yes.
And I think our goal was to get things on by both the women's Final Four and CMA. I wouldn't want to.
Better hurry for the Final Four.
Yeah.
Got 2 weeks.
That's why we had April 1st, But I wouldn't want to push. I wouldn't want to push that 70%, all of that 70% past New Year's Eve.
No, I mean, I think if that's the direction we want to go, I just make a motion that the final 70% need to be filled by the end of the year.
Yeah, if you're making it, I'll second it.
Well, I haven't made a motion. All right. I make a motion that the final 70%, go ahead.
Well, I have a question. Should we be considering, come September 18th, a reallocation of the permits?
Well, that was why I didn't want to go any further with it until we saw where they were with that 30%.
Well, if they're not meeting the 30%, then I think it will be safe to assume we need to revisit the year-end deadline anyway. So I don't think we're hamstringing the commission by setting a second deadline of December 31st, if that's the deadline to fill all the new allocation.
That's fine.
I'm good with that.
Tom, go ahead and make a motion.
I thought if you did, then I second it.
My name's too much on the thing. I make a motion that the final 70% need to be completed by December 31st of this calendar year.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Fields, is there any other business?
We've got 2 or 3 points I'd like to, if you would, give me some personal privilege and ask a couple of things. Magic Taxi has reported they have moved. Their address has to be reported to the staff and then reported to the commission. So they have reported a new address, and I don't think you have to take action. It doesn't say take action, it just has to be reported. So their new address is 325 Plus Park Boulevard, suite number 200C. Zip code is 37217. 2 more things, not quick. At our training class, we do, as you know, we do annual hospitality training for our taxi cab drivers. At our last class, one of the drivers interrupted the class, and it was a disruptive situation, and I thought it was inappropriate. I spoke with him and suggested that I would not allow him to come to class unless he would appear in front of the commission to apologize if that's what he felt like he needed to do, but I thought it was inappropriate action. As you know, the Convention and Visitors Corporation provides our trainer, and they do it at no expense, no cost to the commission or to the government. And Mr. Tower is a cab driver. He is here. I think he would like to have just a few words with. There's no action that you need to take other than I thought it was appropriate for him to be here today. So if you would, I'd appreciate if you allow him to speak to you for a moment. Sure.
Hello.
Hello.
I'd like to apologize for disrupting the class last Friday. It won't happen again, I guarantee it.
As I said, it's a little unusual. But again, our situation was a little unusual, and I wanted him to be here with, unless there's objection from the commission, I'll allow him to come to class again. Secondly, in April, I hope to bring legislation to you to consider that would deal with the transportation network companies. We're continuing to draft. We worked very hard. I feel pretty good about that. And then finally, we have someone departing our staff at the first of next month. Darlene Turnbull is here today, I think. She's going to be retiring from Metro. She's been with us since last year, and I wanted to say thank you and let y'all have an opportunity to thank her. So, thank you.
Thank you.
And I have no more privilege to ask for.
Okay. Well, having concluded our agenda, is there a motion regarding adjourning?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Sal.
Less than 30 minutes.